The air is heavy in the bowels of the Adeptus Mechanicus's sacred manufactorums, the constant hum of machines and the scent of burning promethium filling the damp, metallic halls. The world of the Imperium is a paradox of opulence and decay, where the highest echelons of society thrive in their fortress cities, while the lowest are condemned to a fate beyond human comprehension. Yet, among the most tragic of these fates is the existence of the servitor, a living husk stripped of its will and purpose, reduced to nothing more than a tool. How does one come to such a miserable end? How does a being, once fully human, become no more than a machine? This is the dreadful reality of being a servitor in the grim, dark future of Warhammer 40k. Before we dive deeper into this dark tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're fascinated by the forgotten corners of the Imperium. Your support helps us explore the stories of those lost in the endless machinery of war. The air in the Mechanicus's holy manufactorums is thick with the smell of burning promethium and the sharp, metallic scent of sweat. The flickering lights cast long, trembling shadows on the cold, rusted floors as the procession of men and women, once soldiers, workers, even nobles, are escorted through the labyrinthine halls of the Adeptus Mechanicus's most sacred chambers. The lights above dim further, a signal for what is to come. For these souls, their journey is about to end, and a new existence, or rather, non-existence, is about to begin. The transformation does not happen overnight. It is not a violent, sudden change, but a slow, relentless erosion. The process begins with the stripping away of all that defines a person, their memories, their will, their humanity. The first step is always the same: identification. A name, once sacred and meaningful, becomes little more than a designation. The person is reduced to a number, a serial identifier. There is no more room for individualism. There is only the vast machine of the Imperium, and it will not be denied its service. The victim is bound to a cold metal table, their limbs restrained by unyielding shackles. The sterile atmosphere is devoid of comfort or any trace of humanity. A sterile hum fills the room, punctuated only by the clatter of tools and the whispers of the tech priests who administer this grisly rite. A soft chant can be heard in the distance, the litany of the Mechanicus, reciting the praise of the Omnissiah as the ritual progresses. To the priests of Mars, this is holy work, a sacred act that will allow the subject to live again, though in a form wholly unrecognizable. But to the individual, there is no holiness in what is happening. They are aware of every step of the process. At first, the victim's mind is overwhelmed by the blinding lights, the sensation of needles plunging into flesh, and the cold touch of unfamiliar machinery. The first incision is perhaps the most jarring, as a piece of the individual's skin is removed to allow for the implantation of the first mechanical limb. It is a strange, foreign sensation, the sting of metal against the softness of flesh, the coldness of the machine, and the heat of the human body. The sensation blurs, becoming both real and unreal at the same time. The servitor's journey has begun, and yet the transformation has barely started. The mind does not go quietly. There are moments, fleeting but piercing, where the individual screams out in the depths of their soul. There is a last gasp of defiance, a final cry for mercy that echoes in the chambers, though no one will hear it. In those moments, they are still themselves, still aware of the horror they are becoming. But that awareness is fleeting. The deep hum of the machines, the rhythmic pulse of the mechanical process, drowns out their humanity. Slowly, ever so slowly, their thoughts become more muddled, more fragmented. The memories, once so sharp, start to blur and fade. The face of a mother, a lover, a friend, all of it slips away, replaced by the cold void of mechanized existence. Hours stretch into days, and the victim's humanity is replaced with the glowing, rhythmic pulse of machinery. Their limbs, once flesh and bone, are replaced with harsh, mechanical parts, gleaming and sharp. The first limb is followed by another, and soon the victim is encased in a body that no longer feels human, no longer feels anything at all. The tech priests, indifferent to the suffering, continue their work, one implant after another, until there is little left of the person who once was. There is no ceremony for the moment when the soul slips away entirely. There is no bell, no gong to signify the passing of the human within. It simply fades. One moment, there is a flicker of recognition, of a last plea to remember who they once were. The next, there is nothing. A new being stands in their place, a servitor, a mindless husk of flesh and machine, programmed to serve its new purpose. It has no name, no history, no dreams. It exists only to serve, to obey, to fulfill the endless demands of the Imperium. Yet, even in this stripped-down form, the servitor is not free from the vestiges of its past. There are moments when the servitor, in the depths of its servitude, will experience brief flashes of recognition, memories that break through the haze of programming. They are ghosts, whispers of what once was. But they are fleeting, gone as quickly as they come. There is no escape from the servitor's fate, and so the transformation completes. The victim has become nothing more than a machine, a cog in the vast, grinding machinery of the Imperium. The ritual is over, but the servitor's existence, devoid of will, of choice, of freedom, is just beginning. The forge worlds of the Adeptus Mechanicus are a place where industry and suffering converge, where the relentless drive for production and progress knows no bounds. These worlds are teeming with the hum of machines and the clank of tools, the scent of oil and steel hanging thick in the air. But for all their power, they are a place of silent agony. The servitors here are not merely creations. They are the lifeblood of the Imperium's machine war. They toil endlessly, driven by cold programming, their human origins buried deep beneath layers of metal and circuitry. The forge worlds are both sacred and profane, where the sacred rites of the Omnissiah dictate the unholy creation of beings who know only one purpose: to work. The forge worlds are vast, sprawling factories where the mechanized wonders of the Imperium are produced, weapons, armor, and the engines of war that fuel the endless conflict that consumes the galaxy. Here, the servitors serve as the unseen workers, the hidden cogs that ensure the machinery of the Imperium keeps turning. The servitors are everywhere, hidden in the shadows of the great manufactorums. They are tasked with everything, from maintaining the mighty war machines to sweeping the floors, to the most grueling and thankless tasks that would break any human will. Their existence is one of constant labor, with no respite, no rest, no reprieve. These servitors are not the pampered creations of some noble or rich family, nor are they those created for minor duties in the service of the Imperial Guard or other factions. They are the true laborers, the machines who power the forge worlds, who make it possible for the Adeptus Mechanicus to continue its work for the Imperium. Their bodies are a patchwork of salvaged technology, twisted and bound together by the priests of Mars. The organs and limbs that remain are treated as little more than components, and the soul, if it exists at all, is buried beneath the cold programming that guides their every movement. The servitors here are not kept in some sterile environment. They are immersed in the brutal reality of the forge worlds, where sweat and oil mix, and the air is thick with the smoke of burning promethium. The floors are slick with grease, and the walls are adorned with the grime of constant labor. The din of the machines is deafening, a constant roar that never lets up. The servitors are not provided any comfort, for they do not need it. Their bodies are constructed to endure the constant toll of this ceaseless labor. But their minds, if they still have one, are crushed beneath it. There is no pity for the servitors here. The tech priests view them as little more than tools, and the workers of the forge worlds view them as a necessary evil. The servitors are pushed to their limits, working until their bodies are nothing more than broken, twisted heaps of metal and flesh. And even then, they are repaired and sent back to work. For there is always more to do. There is no escape, no respite, no chance for redemption. The servitors here are born to work, and they will continue to do so until their broken bodies can work no more. In the depths of these massive, sprawling forges, there are moments of quiet. In the darkest corners, the servitors can sometimes be found, standing motionless, their eyes glazed and lifeless. Their once human minds have long since shut down, but still, they stand there, waiting for the next command. Their existence is one of endless repetition, of actions that hold no meaning, of lives that have been lost but never forgotten. And even in this silence, there is a certain horror that lingers. The horror of being forgotten, of having no identity, no purpose, except to serve the cold, relentless machine of the Imperium. The workers, too, are caught in the gears of this monstrous system. They are aware of the servitors, of their suffering, but there is little they can do. The Imperium demands their loyalty, and the tech priests hold all the power. The servitors are just one small part of the vast war machine, but they are vital to its function. Without them, the forge worlds would grind to a halt, and the war effort would falter. So, the servitors remain, endless and silent, their bodies and souls bound to the never-ending toil of the Mechanicus. Here, on these forge worlds, the servitors' fates are sealed. They are broken, unremembered, and unloved. Yet in a twisted way, they are the foundation of the Imperium's war effort. Without them, there would be no weapons, no armor, no war machines. The Imperium would falter. They are the silent workers, the nameless laborers who power the Empire, even as they lose everything that made them human. In the depths of the Imperium, where the stars are too distant to offer any warmth, the servitor exists as a shadow of its former self, a hollow vessel of flesh and metal. Once human, now a mindless instrument, the servitor is no longer aware of its origins, its purpose, or its name. There are no dreams, no desires, only the relentless obedience to the Omnissiah's command. Yet, for a few brief moments, there are whispers of the past, faint memories, like echoes in the darkness. These are the remnants of the person who once existed. The memories come unbidden, flashes of a life long lost. The servitor, despite its programming, retains fragments of the human experience, a cruel twist of fate that offers no solace. These memories, sharp and fleeting, intrude on the mechanical processes that now dominate its every movement. The flicker of recognition as the servitor's arms reach for a tool it once used in a life it cannot fully recall. The feel of cold metal against the skin it once had. For a brief moment, it is no longer a machine. It is a person with a life and a history. But the moment passes, and the servitor is once again swallowed by the mindless void of its programming. The servitor is often seen standing motionless, its head tilted slightly to one side, as if searching for something it cannot remember. The expression, if one could call it that, is not one of thought, but of confusion. There is no joy in the servitor's gaze, no sorrow, only a hollow emptiness, a vacant stare that never seems to end. It is an existence without meaning, a life without agency. The servitor is the very embodiment of lost potential, the ultimate tragedy of a being that was once capable of so much, now reduced to nothing. But these moments of clarity, if they can even be called that, are fleeting. The servitor's mind is not its own. It is a slave to its programming, and the echoes of humanity that remain only serve to torment it further. It knows, deep down, that it is something else now. It is no longer human, no longer a person, but something else entirely. Something that cannot feel, cannot think, and cannot escape. There are no more choices, no more decisions. It moves when told to move, it works when told to work, and it ceases to exist when its usefulness expires. The agony of the servitor's existence lies not in physical pain, but in the psychological torment of being aware of its own loss. Imagine, for a moment, what it must be like to be both aware and unaware at once. To experience a constant tug of war between the fragments of a past life and the overwhelming reality of a present existence that knows only function. The servitor might glimpse its former life in the fleeting moments before the mind dissolves completely, but it is always just out of reach, like a dream fading upon waking. It can never grasp it, never understand it, and in the end, it loses the very essence of what made it human. Yet, the servitor does not truly suffer. The Mechanicus has ensured that its mind is so thoroughly overwritten that it can no longer process pain in the same way a living human would. The servitor is not aware of its own suffering in a conscious, emotional sense. It simply is. It moves. It acts. It works. There is no release, no escape from its fate. And when the servitor dies, whether from malfunction, battle, or the relentless passage of time, it is discarded without ceremony. The body is stripped for parts, the mechanical components salvaged, and the husk left to rot in the forgotten corners of the Imperium. This is the cruelest aspect of the servitor's existence, the complete absence of meaning. A life lived without purpose, save for the demands of the Imperium, a life erased and replaced with an unfeeling machine. The servitor's soul is no longer its own, and even the faint echoes of its past are drowned by the cold efficiency of the Mechanicus. It is a living death, one that stretches on forever in the darkness of the forge worlds, in the depths of the manufactorums, where the endless churn of metal and flesh continues unabated. In the quiet moments of the servitor's existence, it might wonder if it were capable of such thoughts, if it was ever more than this. Was there once a time when it had a name, a family, a future? The answer is lost to time, swallowed by the relentless demands of the Imperium. The servitor is not allowed to remember, and yet it cannot forget. It is caught in an endless cycle of existence that leads nowhere, a prisoner of its own body, its own fate. And so it endures, as a broken reflection of what once was, waiting for the moment when its body, too, will cease to function, and it will finally be free. Not in the way a person might hope, but in the finality of non-existence. There are tales, whispered among the halls of the Inquisition and spoken in hushed tones by those few who know the darkest secrets of the Imperium, of servitors who break free. These tales are as rare as they are untrustworthy, filled with mystery and contradiction, and they paint a picture of hope, or perhaps of delusion, that the soul can be reclaimed from the clutches of the Mechanicus. It is a dangerous and tantalizing notion that in the vast, unfeeling machine that is the Imperium, there might still be room for redemption, even for one whose mind has been so thoroughly erased. The stories are as varied as they are chilling. Some claim that on rare occasions, a servitor's mind glitches, its programming unraveling just long enough for the human soul to reassert itself. In these fleeting moments, a servitor might remember its name, its family, its purpose. It may cry out in confusion or attempt to flee. But such moments are brief, like a candle flickering in the wind. Before long, the machine's programming kicks in again, and the servitor becomes a mindless tool once more. But for those who have witnessed such a thing, the memory lingers long after the servitor has been returned to its work. These moments, these glimpses of humanity, are enough to fuel the desperate hope that the soul can, perhaps, be saved. The reality is far less romantic. The Mechanicus, in its tireless pursuit of efficiency and order, has perfected the process of stripping away human identity. There is no place for weakness in the ranks of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the idea that a servitor might regain its mind is not just improbable, it is nearly impossible. The tech priests and their infernal machines work tirelessly to ensure that once a person is made into a servitor, they stay that way. The human mind is overwritten again, and finally erased. The result is a mindless slave to the Imperium's demands. A servitor, no matter how broken, can only be fixed with more metal, more programming, and more obedience. Yet, in the rarest of circumstances, something slips through the cracks. It is not a true reclamation of the soul, but a temporary fracture in the cold perfection of the Mechanicus's process. Some say that the Inquisition itself has uncovered these rare instances, and that they have tried, in vain, to salvage the flickering remnants of the servitor's past life. But these moments are not ones of hope. They are the tragic, painful realizations of what has been lost, of what cannot be saved. There is no room for salvation in the Adeptus Mechanicus, only progress. The servitor, like all things in the Imperium, is a tool to be used until it breaks. There are also rumors, more dangerous than the first, of the tech priests themselves tampering with the process, experimenting with the servitor's mind, seeking to unlock the secrets of the human soul. These whispered stories suggest that the Mechanicus does not merely erase the human mind, but may occasionally seek to push the boundaries of its control, attempting to manipulate the very essence of consciousness. Perhaps there are tech priests who seek to isolate the soul itself, to experiment with it as they would any piece of machinery, to see if the human spirit can be folded into the gears of the Imperium's great machine. Such pursuits are seen as heretical by the ecclesiarchy, and they are usually shrouded in secrecy, known only to the most dangerous factions of the Adeptus Mechanicus. But all of this is speculation. It is rumor and myth, spoken only in the shadows of the Imperium. The truth is much darker. For the Servitor, any hope of reclaiming its soul is little more than a dream, a cruel fantasy that vanishes as quickly as it arises. Once a Servitor's mind has been completely overwritten, there is no coming back. It is a fate that awaits all who are chosen for this horrific transformation. Even if a Servitor retains some semblance of its former self, it is doomed to live as a hollow shell of what it once was, forever bound to the machine that controls it. And yet, there is always the possibility, however unlikely, that the Servitor might be freed. It could happen in the most unexpected of places, a moment of grace or chance, a flicker of mercy amidst the cold, calculating cruelty of the Imperium. Perhaps on the rare occasion, an Inquisitor might stumble upon a Servitor whose mind has broken free for just a moment, enough to whisper its name or speak a final desperate plea for release. But even if that were to happen, it would be short-lived. The Imperium does not allow for weakness. It is a cold, unfeeling empire, and any attempt to break free from its iron grip is swiftly punished. The tales of servitors regaining their minds are nothing more than that. Tales. There is no redemption here, only the slow, inevitable decline into oblivion. The servitor will never escape. It will always return to the machines, its humanity forever lost, and its soul left to rot within its broken shell. In the deepest recesses of the Imperium, there is a dark irony that few are willing to acknowledge. The Servitor, in all its degradation, is not merely a tragic figure, but a symbol of the Imperium's very essence. It is not a lost individual, a fleeting memory of humanity doomed to suffer in mechanical form. No, it is something much darker. The Servitor is a reflection of a society that values its citizens not for their lives, but for their utility. It is a creation of a universe where the individual is insignificant, where the needs of the many outweigh the suffering of the few. A universe where the machine is worshipped and the human soul is considered expendable. From the forge worlds to the battlefields of distant star systems, servitors remain the backbone of the Imperium's industrial might. Their existence, stripped of any moral consideration, is the foundation upon which the Imperium's war machine is built. The legions of servitors labor ceaselessly in the manufactorums, their minds erased and their bodies transformed into tools. Yet even in this reduced state, they serve a higher purpose: to maintain the flow of weapons, armor, and resources that fuel the eternal conflict of the Imperium. It is a chilling truth, one that echoes throughout the dark corridors of the Mechanicus's sacred temples. The Servitor represents the dehumanization that runs deep within the heart of the Imperium. In the eyes of the tech priests, a Servitor is a necessary sacrifice, a tool to be used and discarded, nothing more. The loss of the individual is seen as inconsequential in the face of the greater goal, the survival of the Imperium. The machine must continue to turn, no matter the cost. This brutal pragmatism is the essence of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the Servitor embodies it to its fullest extent. But the Servitor's legacy is not just one of cold utility. It is also a reflection of the Imperium's ultimate failure, its inability to preserve humanity in a universe that has long since abandoned mercy. The Servitor, in its mindless state, serves as a reminder of what the Imperium sacrifices in its pursuit of victory. It is a reminder that, in the end, the human soul is a commodity, something that can be exchanged, discarded, or erased for the greater good of the Imperium's endless war. The Imperium, in all its might, has lost sight of the very thing it fights to protect, the sanctity of the human spirit. As the servitors toil away in the dark halls of the manufactorums, it becomes increasingly clear that they are not the only ones who suffer from this system. They are the lowest rung of a caste system that has permeated the entire Imperium, a society where the individual is disposable, where the weak are cast aside, and where the rich and powerful remain untouched by the suffering of the masses. The servitors are the physical embodiment of this social order, a constant reminder that the cost of the Imperium's glory is the destruction of the very thing that makes a person human. But even as the servitor stands as a symbol of this brutal machine, there are those who resist. There are whispers among the oppressed, those who see the servitor for what it is, a human being, no longer bound by flesh, but still possessed of a soul. These whispers speak of rebellion, of the possibility of change, of a world where the servitor is no longer just a tool to be discarded. It is a faint hope, perhaps, but it exists nonetheless. For in the darkest corners of the Imperium, even the most broken of souls can still dream of freedom. The servitor's legacy, therefore, is not one of hopelessness, but of a dark potential. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, even when that spirit is hidden beneath layers of metal and programming. The servitor is not just a casualty of war, it is a reflection of a deeper truth, that no matter how far the Imperium has fallen, there is still something worth fighting for. Even the lowest of creatures, the most broken of beings, can still have a legacy, a place in the dark history of the Imperium. It is a legacy that is born of suffering, yes, but it is also one that calls for redemption. The servitor, for all its mindless obedience, remains a symbol of humanity's greatest failing, but also of its greatest strength. In the end, the story of the servitor is not just one of tragedy, but of a larger, more profound commentary on the nature of the Imperium itself. It is a society that has lost its way, that values its citizens not as individuals, but as pieces in a vast and unfeeling machine. The servitor's fate is a reflection of this cold, unyielding system, one that crushes the individual for the sake of the greater whole. And yet, despite all this, the servitor remains a testament to the endurance of the human spirit, a glimmer of hope in the dark, mechanical world that the Imperium has become.